Okay, good afternoon all. Welcome. This is session 5BH of the November GSE UK conference. This session is an Ask the Expert session. It's an interactive session all about how can I use open source languages to modernize business critical applications on ZOS. With it being interactive, I'm going to enable everyone allow themselves to unmute. So please make this as interactive as you can. And yeah, ask as many questions as you like. With that, I'll share my screen and hand over to you, Chandni.
So thank you, Joe. Just wait for the slides to come up.
Yeah, doing it now. All yours.
Awesome. So maybe you can go to the next slide.
Yeah, I'll do this one. Yeah, just don't forget, these are the charities we've aligned this year, both very worthy causes, the lifeboats and guide dogs for the blind. So please do dig deep.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Like Joe mentioned, this is going to be a very interactive session. We made this interactive because just yesterday, Roland Koo actually covered a good information about how programming languages can actually help you modernize your business critical applications. So Roland actually covered an overview of the portfolio. But today, what we're trying to do is we're trying to deep dive a little into the open source programming languages that we have. So we do have Node.js, Python, and Go in our portfolio of languages, right? So today we'll try to cover a little more information about the open source languages, and we have most of our panelists right now available here in front of you. What I'll just do is that I'll let each panelist introduce themselves. You see them on the screen here, and I'll let Chad go first because Chad, your name is here in first, so you can introduce yourself.
Thanks, Chandni. I'm Chad McIntyre. I've been the IBM Open Enterprise SDK for Python development lead and architect. So I'm here to answer your questions around Python.
Can you mute? There's one of the participants is unmuted, I guess. Okay, I'll let Igor go next. Igor, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. So yeah, my name is Igor Tarowski. I work for the Node.js on ZOS team. I'm the development lead. I've been in IBM for more than a decade. I've been working on a variety of compiler solutions from C and C++ to Swift, and now Node.js. So if you have any questions with regards to Node.js on ZOS, yeah, I'll be here to help answer them.
Awesome. Thanks, Igor. James, you're next.
Hello, everyone. My name is James Tang, and I'm the product manager for Go and Java on COS. I'm here to help answer any questions they may have with our compilers. And yeah, 21 years at IBM now, and a number of different roles. Came from development, but now into the other side of the house in the business side. So very exciting there too. Thanks.
Thanks, James. Roseanne, do you want to go next?
I'm Roseanne Jolan, and I'm the manager and delivery manager for both Python and Node.js on ZOS. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what kinds of questions you all have for us today. See how we can help.
Thank you, Roseanne. Hey, Bill, I see you online.
Hello.
Hi.
So I'm Bill O'Farrell, and I'm the development team lead for Go SDK on ZOS. 30 years at IBM, probably about 10 of them in compilers. I've done a number of roles in a lot of different areas, and now focusing on Go.
Thank you, Bill. Larry, you're the last one.
Hi, my name's Larry Lindsay. I'm the development manager for Go on ZOS, and I'm here to answer any questions that you have in relation to Go, and I'm looking forward to a robust conversation.
Thank you, Larry. And we do have a special guest, in special appearance. We have Roland Koo. He's joined us too in this session. So Roland, do you want to just say hi, show your face, and say hello to the audience?
Yeah, hi, I'm Roland Koo. I lead the product management team for compilers on ZOS and also enterprise products. So today we assembled this panel of experts so that we can answer all your questions on the newer members of the compiler portfolio. I went through some of the information yesterday, but that was kind of like a whirlwind. It's a very little time, a lot of information. So this is an opportunity for you to ask the questions that you haven't got the opportunity to ask yesterday.
Thank you, Roland. Roland, I'll let you stay unmuted because if you can go on to the next slide, we do have a little introduction. I know I'm putting you on the spot, Roland, but this is one of our favorite slides. If you can talk over it a little and introduce some of the programming languages that we are talking about today. So specifically Node, Python, and Go, and how we can use these languages to modernize business critical applications today. A little intro would be great. And then what I'll do is I'll go into some of the questions to kind of warm up for the audience. So Roland, over to you.
Sure. So if you look at the middle box there, it's really what most of the applications on ZOS would look like, right? I mean, you'll be having a business critical application that's written in COBOL, PL1, or Java, and uses some middleware. So when you modernize these applications, right, for digital transformation purposes, then traditionally, if we don't have the new languages on the platform, you will have to use the same language to do, things you want to do. And sometimes it's going to be difficult. Sometimes, getting talents to, skills to work on it is also difficult. So what, people have been doing is that, the COBOL PL1 applications usually is, they have some assembler, applications that they need to call or interoperate with, right? And then, with the COBOL and applications, a lot of customers want to add a UI aspect to it, and they will tend to usually use Java. And we also know that assembler skills is kind of scarce out there. So what customers have been using is something called the Metal C feature of the C and C++ compiler to help modernize these applications. So these things have been around for quite some time. Now, what is new is that we bring in some new languages like Node, Python, and Go, right? So with Python and Go, we can actually, use it to develop a new class of applications that actually can work with the existing applications through perhaps APIs that are exposed by ZOS Connect. Or Node.js can also be used as a programming language for Kix applications. It will treat it like the same way. Kix would treat it the same way as COBOL and Java, and the entire application will run in the Kix region, right? And then we also have packages that with Node that you can actually work with vSAN, DB2, and things like that. So if you can look at this, this diagram here, we started from the middle, and then we can actually now you don't have to be locked in using the same language to extend the capabilities of your applications. Now you can actually have a lot more options in play, right? One of the important things about modernization is is using APIs. And if you look at the diagram on the right, Node is also a very good orchestrator for APIs, because APIs is not just orchestration. It's not just about the sequence of calls. It is also, sometimes you may want to apply business logic to it, and Node would be a really, really good tool for that, right? And because it has unlimited bandwidth, it deals really good with I/O. It's non-blocking, design. It's it makes the almost like you have unlimited bandwidth to do these kind of applications. So the good thing about this also is that the applications on other platforms will not need to know the structure of the application on ZOS, which is usually pretty difficult to understand. So you can actually provide that layer of abstraction so that it makes everything easier. And the best people that are going to be designing the APIs within the ZOS platform are the ZOS developers. So with that, I'm just going to turn it back to Channy so that we can have a discussion going. We're just not about questions, it's also about your thoughts too, right? So if you have any thoughts about that, we'll be interested to also discuss those with you as well.
Yeah, that's a great point, Roland. Thank you so much. I know I put you on spot here, but thank you so much for doing the introduction here. We'll stay on this slide so that we can continue our conversation about the programming languages. So we all know, most of the audience already knows about these open source programming languages. They're really famous out there. So Node, Python, Go, like we mentioned. What I would like to do is I would like to go around the table and ask our experts here about what are the key strengths of each programming language, on the platform. So on ZOS, if you can, give us some idea, say, for example, for Python, if it's more about AI, automation, etc. So I'll let our experts talk about it. So strengths of these programming languages on ZOS. So Chad, do you want to go ahead first? Maybe elaborate a little on about Python.
Sure thing, Jamie. So I don't know that Python necessarily needs an introduction, given it's the most popular programming language in the world, according to the TOB survey results that just came out. So that's the thing. But the question is, why Python, or what are its strengths? So Jenny kind of tipped part of the story there. Python is a key player in the AI and the machine learning framework space, right? And so people are very keen to use it around those types of applications. Beyond that, Python is kind of a key automation language for a lot of frameworks and a lot of tools and a lot of CI and CD pipelines as well. So there's a lot of people who use Python to do these types of workloads. And if you look to nothing further than Ansible, there's a whole platform and framework built around Python, built that runs on Python, that does the whole Ansible framework. So there's those things. On top of that, there's the idea that a lot of distributed workloads, so workloads that happen on other platforms, are written in Python as well. And so there's a good synergy or a good strength to be leveraged in terms of skill set, because people learn this language in university and they're familiar with this language from other platforms and from other experience. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Chad. So maybe we can talk about Node, the strengths of Node. Igor, do you want to elaborate a little about that?
Sure. And Roland, I think, touched upon a lot of these common use cases and benefits for Node, but I'll just reiterate. So Node, as mentioned, is great for IO-intensive workload or IO-bound workload. And the reason it's great for this is due to its asynchronous, non-blocking, event-based model. So types of workloads that are great for this include web APIs, web UIs, any type of data-intensive workloads. So for example, a web API is great because it makes use of networking. It does a lot of request and response from client to server. It may also access file system and database. So a lot of IO-intensive workload in web APIs and web UIs. And Node.js also provides a lot of frameworks that help the building of web APIs. The biggest, the most popular one is Express. There's also Loopback. In addition to that, it's really easy to scale web applications with Node.js. There's Node modules such as PM2, Process Manager 2, that allow you to scale vertically without even having to change your source code. And also you can piggyback off of IBM solutions like Syspex Distributor, which allow you to balance workloads horizontally and then also scale horizontally across a shared port.
Okay, that's excellent. I like your examples. Thanks, Igor. Thanks for that. And we have someone from Go team as well. Bill, Larry, if one of you want to just elaborate on the strengths for Go, or James. I mean, I would leave it on you. Whoever can unmute first.
Well, I'll get started. So Go is interesting in that it's a language that has a lot of the kind of look and feel programming characteristics of a more scripted language like Python, but it's actually a compiled language. It's fully typed, compiles into machine code, is very efficient. And in fact, a lot of the infrastructure of the cloud is actually written in Go. So for example, Docker, Kubernetes, etc., they're all written in Go because they all rely on Go's efficiency as well as its easy programmability. It's a garbage collected language, so you don't have a lot of the issues and problems associated with traditional memory management that you get in C or C++. It's also among the compiled languages, one of the easiest to port from platform to platform in terms of your application. And there are tens of thousands of packages and modules that have been developed in the community, which can do just about anything you can think of, but certainly databases, REST APIs, just about anything you can think of has already been written in Go, and you just have to use it. James, do you want to add to that?
No, I think you covered well. I would just add, some of the maybe some of the common use cases that we have seen customers attempting, or even our partner space actually quite exciting about this new language, because they can actually quite a few of them are trying to port some very, very popular Go applications that are currently running on the distributor side and try to make them work on ZOS, and this compiler enables that. I have to refrain from giving examples of those applications just because of confidentiality of the partner's work right now. But there are plenty of them. So just search for Go applications and you will see the big ones that actually Bill mentioned too, right? The infrastructure type, the large big data or analytics or even AI. There's a lot of applications they're using Go because it's perceived as a very, from our own testing too, like it's a high performing compiler. And it's a native compiler that's available on ZOS. It's not a just in time. It's not an interpreter. You don't have to go through layers. Is compiled against native code for the platform. In this case, COS. The other common use case is application modernization, which is a key theme for many these days, and including a lot of our customers. Some of them are writing APIs like this chart there that Roland has, right? Using COS Connect or and using REST APIs to connect with existing COS services, writing wrappers or plugins. Because Go, as Bill mentioned, is a very simple syntax, easy to learn and easy to maintain language. So you can do a lot of different things with Go, including these standalone types of code. The other use case is communicating with middleware or other languages. So I'm not sure if Bill mentioned the CGO functionality that is part of the Go language. It's called CGO, which is the ability for the Go program to call out into C. So that you can imagine the world of possibilities. Right? Once you can do things in C, you can do things in Go through this CGO package, and to interact with other languages like COBOL or PL1 or other more traditional language types that exist on the platform. So you can use that. Right now, a lot of our customers use Java for app modernization, but this is certainly another language for consideration due to its popularity and skills available. And I mentioned middleware, so we have examples out there to connecting with the middleware like Kix. How does a Go program interact with the middleware layer? So we have examples out there to help customers do that too. Anyway, that's probably a little too long. Back to you.
No, that's good. We definitely wanted to hear the use cases as well. So thanks, James, everybody. Thank you for doing that. Quick strengths, use cases about these programming languages. So I'm going to stop talking. Maybe in case somebody from the audience would like to unmute and ask some questions. So I'll just pause for a second. Okay, so okay, so I'll ask another question then. So I'll kind of try to poke you guys a little more. So let's see, Chad, I have a question for you actually. So this is a very common question we've been hearing for all the open source programming languages, right? So the zip eligibility factor. So if you can just kind of elaborate a little more about what's happening right now in terms of zip eligibility for our open source programming languages.
Sure, Jenny. So we get the question quite frequently, are Python, Node, or Go eligible to run on zip processors? And the answer is today they are not. And there's a lot of complexity behind the scenes in terms of how that has to happen and what needs to be done and is involved in that. And so we're taking a careful look at what other kinds of solutions we can do there and what things we can do to handle this. There's 100% a recognition that we hear you and we see that this is a very important point for using these languages and embracing these languages on the platform. And so I can assure you that we're looking very, very earnestly at different options and ways to help you along these lines.
Okay, thanks, Chad. Do anyone of you want to elaborate on this, or I can just move on to the next question then?
I have a question, Channing.
Hey, great.
And I hope this is appropriate to ask in this forum, but what are we seeing in, across the client base? What are they using these compilers for? Is it purely enhancing or tuning existing apps and what's already there? They add in completely new feature functions, or is it extending lifespan of kind of older apps, that type of thing? And I guess, are there any examples, real world examples that you could refer to? Tough question.
No, in fact, I think Igor, do you want to talk a little bit about the use case for Node? When we mentioned that there's one of the cases we were talking about recently. Sorry, I forgot the term. Sorry, go ahead, Igor.
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, typical use cases for Node.js are building web APIs and web UIs, and yeah, this is what we've typically seen from our clients. They typically use Node.js to build a UI front end in order to expose some ZOS data through either a UI. There's also cases where they're building web APIs, REST web APIs, so that they can expose some of their ZOS mainframe data to other services outside of ZOS. So one example of a client that uses Node.js is the Zoe project. They actually built their virtual desktop UI using Node.js running on ZOS. So that's one example. There's several other products that use Node.js on ZOS for their UIs. Another example is Watson machine learning for ZOS. They actually built their UI configuration tool, and that's running on Node.js on ZOS.
Yeah, I can actually add a couple to that as well. So I was talking to a bank, and I didn't realize that account balance is really a calculated field. So I thought, every time that you update your account, you will, calculate it and store it, but it's really a calculated field. So what they're looking at is to be able to very quickly, get that information because they have to look through 8 databases to basically get the data to calculate those fields, that value. So they're thinking about using Node because they feel that they can very quickly do that with a Node application, and and then expose this and then return this value back to an API call, basically probably return it back to a mobile device. So that's what they're looking at as well. And I also heard work with a client who's looking at replacing the old way of doing APIs, right, with Node. So those are the kind of things that haven't been put into production yet, but they're certainly looking at working with Node on ZOS.
Yeah, thanks, Roland. And in fact, what I've also done is that I've added a link to one of the use cases we've had from Phoenix Software. It's a very good project. So Paul Scott apparently sat over the weekend and he used Node to call, he said that I could call Rex from Node.js and come up with this global web application component on ZOS. So that was a great project he did, and that was really over the weekend. So he said that it's as simple as that. So it's a great use case that you can read about, and I've added a link into the chat as well. So it's also on our IBM Z and Linux One community. So all our programming languages are within the community. So we keep posting blogs and use cases that we've heard from clients, etc. We've been doing that a lot on the community. So another good place to find some of our use cases as well.
I will also chime in, Channy, that we see clients using this for very rapid prototyping, because you can do that, and as Paul Scott did over a weekend, right? You can play around. You don't necessarily have to have a month-long project to try something out and see how that's going to work, etc. And these languages are very useful for that kind of thing as well.
Absolutely.
I can give a few examples from Python's perspective if you'd like. Okay, I'll take that as a yes. So for Python, we're seeing all kinds of people doing lots of things. So if you were privileged enough to be at Share in August, there was a cloud provider who is actually using Python to manage their cloud ecosystem. So basically, they manage all their ZOS machines, and all their infrastructure is written in Python to do this. And so they're comboing that with Ansible. So they use Ansible to drive the Python, but they've basically expressed their subsystem configuration and deployment logic in Python. So, if they want to stand up a Kix region or something like that, this is all encoded in Python. And this is really kind of helping them consolidate and be uniform across environments without having kind of bespoke things on each machine. So that's one example, right? So people are very much in the automation and in the system space. The other parts we're seeing around modernization and kind of how do you work Python into the equation, people are starting to use Python with their existing infrastructure. So customers who want to, leverage data that's coming out of existing PL1 infrastructure, for example, and to generate reports or to generate new functionality or to interact with their existing application stack. And so what they get to do is keep their existing and well-vetted applications running and operating, but then use Python to and unlock some of those packages and some of that ecosystem to do some of that sort of higher level computation, right? In terms of let me plot this, or let me serve reports about this, or let me do some kind of analytics on this. And so people are really kind of jumping around that and doing that. The other part I would say is people are looking at this as Python is kind of one of the great pipeline languages in terms of combining a bunch of existing things and doing something new with all of those existing things. And so people are doing this, right? So they'll go grab some data from a data set, and then they'll grab some data from DB2. And then they'll combine it, right? And so these are things that were not so straightforward for them in the past, right? There was a lot of kind of design and application and stuff like that. So now, they can kind of quickly take a shot at this and say, oh, let me see what it would look like if I could answer this question this way, right? And so we see a bunch of customers who are actually in this space of, let me write a quick Python thing to pull these things together, get me some answers, right? Maybe I keep it, maybe I deploy it. We're seeing both of those. So those are some Python examples.
Thanks, Chad. That was good. In fact, I've seen, I'm actually seeing a lot of content coming in from James. James, you've mentioned a statement of direction on Kubernetes and Open Containers Initiative for Go, right? Do you want to elaborate a little bit about it? And I think it's really cool that we have this function. We will have this function eventually, but you want to talk a little?
Yeah. I'm trying to be careful what we can announce here, because this is the statement of direction. It's externally available. That's why I pasted it. There are some other projects that we're working closely with partners on that I unfortunately cannot share specifically due to privacy, right? So this one is external, and it's not a secret that we actually been working on COS native containers, and that is actually a Go-based framework, Kubernetes and Open Container Initiatives with Cryo and runc. If you know those technologies. You can also Google that. Basically, that's part of IBM Z hybrid cloud strategy, right? To enable these containers and underlying infrastructure using those technologies and able to help our customers, accelerate their transformation to, portability and agility in the hybrid cloud environment, right? So that's actually very key, and that's a very big project within the IBMZ, within our organization right now. And that's we're collaborating very, very closely with the teams that are enabling this Go port. And then I've listed a lot of other reference materials in case you're interested. I mentioned about Go being able to interrupt with other traditional languages, right? With VSAM, COBOL, being a RESTful server here, an example, and the latest being ability to connect with the VSAM databases using SQL, and we're actually working on another video without SQL. So you don't need a dependency on this particular feature to have Go programs directly calling to these data assets that you have on the platform. And then the last couple I have Go with middleware. There's an example there that's available publicly. And if you're interested in importing applications, we actually have written very detailed instructions on how you would go about it. So just trying to provide as much information about the things that are really exciting us and exciting our customer base to share with you.
Yeah, and I'll just add a couple of other things. So Go is one of the newer language out of the set that we're talking about today. We've just released it in under a year, and we're starting to see with customers that we talk to or our engagements that we have that people are trying to see how they can port their applications from their other platforms and take advantage of unlocking the capabilities of Z by using their applications on ZOS. So we're seeing a lot more workloads, and we're seeing a lot more porting activities using Go on IBM Z.
That's awesome. Okay, thanks, Larry. So I think, yes, there are a lot of links we've added onto the chat. So Joe, is there a way we can share this, the links with the audience, just in case the audience looks for it after the session?
Yep, I'll work it out. No worries, Jenny. Yeah,
sure. Thanks, Joe. So I'll let the audience also ask some questions because we're doing a lot of back and forth ourselves. Is there anyone who wants to ask any questions from the audience? Please feel free to unmute and ask a question.
Hi, I'll start.
Alan.
I'm probably a bit naive with this because I've been interested in the automation side of things, and I'm also interested in the various languages. Is all of this on the USS side, or is it actually on the ZOS side, available on the ZOS side as well? Is it basically you're using USS for all these, for Node and Python and Go, and they interact with the ZOS side of Z?
I can start for Python if you want. So for Python, you're absolutely right. It's a Unix application, just like you see from other platforms. And so the question is, well, how do I reach in, or how do I interact with the MVS or the more typical in mainframe environments? And so there's a package called Z Open Automation Utilities, and basically this is an interface or a bridge into the MVS space. And so there's a Python-based API wrapped around this, and so the idea is you can use that to do various things. So you can reach in and read data sets or create data sets or things of that nature. You can go and grab the contents of the operator log, assuming you've got permission or authority to do that. You can submit JCL and things of that nature. So a lot of the ways to do that are kind of launched through there. You can also use some of the existing frameworks around ZOS MF and ZOS Connect and things like that to connect to the existing legacy mainframe things. And this is kind of the story, I think, around modernizing, right? Is kind of bridging to these existing things through these frameworks. And that's kind of how it works for Python.
Yeah, thanks.
And just to add to that for Node.js, so we also provide a Unix binary for Node.js. If you wanted to invoke Node.js in the batch environment, you can actually make use of the BPX batch utility and execute it either as a starter task or via JCL. As far as working with data sets, we will have a similar solution to Python with ZOAU. Coming in the near future. So you'll have similar interfaces as what's provided in Python currently.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think there's for Node.js, there's also vSAM package and other packages that help you connect directly with ZOS assets. Similar to the list that James has listed for Go.
And just to add to what everyone else is saying, for Go, similar to Unix-based application, but we're also looking at capabilities to be able to enable you to access assets on the bash side. So there should be some things that we're working on right now in order to unlock those capabilities.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Thanks for asking that, Alan. So I don't have any questions for you guys, but if you want to just, kind of, we could probably like summarize a little bit about what we were talking, why would we want to use these open source languages? Maybe, Roland, if you want to give your take on this as well, would be great.
Yeah, I think the important point here is that, we're not just making these languages available, for our customers, but we actually are also relying on these languages ourselves, right? So as James said, the container runtime project that we're doing, making open container available on ZOS, we really need Go, right? So basically, we need to make sure that the quality of all these open languages are good, so that we can also use it to provide, software on the platform as well, right? There's a lot of interdependencies with, between the products within IBM as well. Like for example, Python is very important for, the ISOTA or the data science package that we the data science software that we made available on ZOS, and also very important to the Ansible product as well. So if you look at, and Node is actually intertwined within the Zoe framework and everything. So all the languages that we put in here, we're going to be using it ourselves. So it's important to note that we also will be staying current with the community edition so that we don't fall behind on the platform. And that's a very important aspect for us. So that's, we're working very hard to make that happen, not just for our customers, but also for ourselves.
Great, thank you, Roland. So just to give you an idea, right? We actually have, if you just go on the next slide, Joe, I have actually included some of the links for our products, for most of our products actually, and we do have a lot of blogs. We write a lot, so all the team members you see here, we actually write a lot of information. We try to share a lot of information on the IBM Z and Linux One community. We would actually encourage you to come and participate and talk a little bit more about any issues that you find today which we could address, or any ideas or solutions that you have in mind. You want to just run by an idea with us, please do feel free. Come on to the IBM Z and Linux One community, look for our programming languages. We're out there, open to discuss, and we're happy we had this session, and we're hopeful that we hear more from you, from the audience, especially if there are people who are looking at the replay as well. And in fact, all of our speakers have put in their Twitter, LinkedIn handles, but you can always find us on LinkedIn. You can also kind of get in touch with us directly as well. So it's great that we have you all here today, but I think that's about it in terms of the questions. And if there's anything you want to add, anybody from the panelists, you want to add anything before we try to end the session today?
Yeah, a couple of comments here. Also, we are new to this space as well, right? So as we work with our customers, as we gain more experience in this space, we will have more use cases. But if you really have unique use cases that you have any questions on and you want to validate with us, please do reach out. We'll be happy to to have a discussion with you.
I wonder, Chad, if you would describe maybe our CI/CD pipeline that we use within our team, and how we've used Python and Ansible and stuff to just automate all that, and a very quick use case that's very common.
Yeah, I can give a quick overview of that. So much like everybody else, we're developing a mainframe application or a Z application, and we have the question or the challenge of how do we build and do CI and CD with it. So we happen to be in the privileged place of being able to use Python because we're one, using and building Python, but two, the Python team kind of uses Python-based infrastructure to do this in the community as well. So we've been able to run the actual the same software that the community uses to build, so namely BuildBot, which is written in Python, to run on the Z machines and actually conduct our builds there. So we actually kind of drive and coordinate our builds through this Python framework using our own Python. On top of that, we're leveraging Ansible, right, to start to extract our infrastructure and encode that in source controlled assets. Okay, so we can actually extract all of the notions or all of the dependencies that we need to express on a build machine before we can do a successful build. And so what we end up with is something that's checked into GitHub, which can now deploy a ZOS machine from scratch, which has all of the things we need to successfully build. And so we've kind of built this infrastructure and this automation around the notion of Python and its existence on the platform. So that's kind of a quick example.
Thanks, Chad. And thank you, Rosan, for bringing that up, actually. Larry, anything you want to add just to close?
No, just like as Roland said, we're open when we want to hear your use cases. So please reach out to us. Again, we're new to this space. Go is one of the newer languages that have come onto the scene, and we're really looking forward to engaging with folks on the use cases that they have and seeing if there's any gaps that we have and how we can address them.
Okay, thank you, Larry. And Joe, I think that's about it from our end for the questions as well.
No problem. Thanks. Thanks. I found it really interesting. So yeah, very much appreciated. So with that, I'll shut it down there. I've collated all the questions. All the links in the chat. So I'll get them sent out after the session. Okay.
Thank you, Joe. We really appreciate that.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Bye-bye.
No worries. Cheers. Bye-bye.